Okay, we're going to install MongoDB on Mac OS, and I am using Mavericks 10.9.5. You need a terminal window open and the MongoDB docs page, as well Homebrew if you don't have that installed. So I'm going to assume that you don't, so have Homebrew installed. So go to brew.sh, scroll down to the bottom of the page and copy and paste this command into your terminal. Press return. Okay, so after it finishes downloading and installing, the next thing that you're supposed to do is run the brew doctor. Okay, so it'll come up with a couple of warnings. Don't worry about it. It's supposed to do that, and you can see that that's what they're saying here. This is mainly for debugging. So now that we have brew ready to go, let's install MongoDB. So we'll run brew update just because. And now brew install MongoDB. Okay, so now we've installed MongoDB. Now we need to make a directory for our collections and documents. So we'll do that in the default directory that Mongo recommends, data db. And now we're going to run Mongo for the first time. Okay, our MongoDB is running. Let's open up another terminal window, and we'll add some collections and documents. So at the prompt, type in Mongo. Since this is the first time, it's going to connect to test. Okay, so type DB to see what DB we're in. We're in test.
In this video, we will examine how to install MongoDB on a Debian or Ubuntu Linux installation. First of all, you need to find the version of Linux which you are running. Let's go ahead now and switch over to a Debian Linux session. The first step is to open up a terminal window. This can be done by going to Applications, Accessories, and from there selecting Terminal. We can now issue the command uname -a. This will give us the version of Linux which is currently running on this system. As you can see, this is Debian-based, and it's 64-bit. If possible, the simplest approach would be to simply open up a browser and then download and install the version of MongoDB. From the built-in browser, we go to the mongodb.org website. From there, we select Downloads, and we pick the version of Linux which is appropriate for our installation. In this example, we've got the 64-bit version and the 32-bit version. Because we are running a 64-bit version of Linux, we would select the 64-bit version. We could then save the file, shortening the download time for the purposes of this video. The file now has been saved. We can then double-click on it, extract the contents to the appropriate place, and then perform the setup procedure from there. The installation procedure is well documented at docs.mongodb.org debian/manual/tutorial/install-mongodb-on-debian/. We would download the file, extract it from the archive, copy it to a target directory, configure a search path. We would then need to set up the data directory, make sure that the permissions are appropriately set, and then we're ready to start MongoDB. However, in most cases, it's much better to locate the appropriate package for the Linux distribution that you are running. In order to do so, we will follow the instructions listed on install-mongodb-on-debian/. The steps are as follows. Import the MongoDB key. Create a sources.list file for MongoDB. And then we can use the command apt-get update and apt-get install in order to install the MongoDB server package and client on this particular Linux installation. The reason why we prefer packages is that the packages have installation scripts which are tailored to this specific system. Let's go ahead now and follow these 3 steps. First of all, we open up a terminal window. We go to Applications, Accessories, and then we select Terminal. We then import the MongoDB key. The reason why we use the sudo command is that these operations need to be performed as the root user. We now have the key inserted into our Linux system. For the next step, we create a sources.list file for MongoDB. We copy the command in the box. We can then issue this command from the terminal window. In the next step, we reload the package database. After this, we will be ready to perform the actual installation. You'll notice that sometimes you will see an error message, some index files failed to download. This is very typical in many Linux distributions, and in this case, the error will not be considered fatal. We are now ready to install the packages. Again, we use the sudo apt-get install command to do this. We see a list of packages which need to be downloaded and installed as compiled. Once the download has completed, the installation script will kick in. Notice that by default there's a user called MongoDB and a group called MongoDB which is installed into this Linux distribution. The installation script also automatically starts the MongoDB database instance. To stop the MongoDB database instance, you simply type sudo service MongoDB stop. To start it, you do the same thing, except you use the keyword start. And finally, to restart, you use the same sequence, except you would say restart. This is necessary if you change the MongoDB configuration. Configuration will be covered in a separate video. To test the installation, let's connect to the MongoDB instance. We simply type in Mongo. This gives us access to the MongoDB shell. From there, we can access the built-in default database. We type in use mydb. We can now save a test document. This will create a document with a field A, which has a value of 1. We can now locate the document to verify that the save occurred properly. To do this, we type in db.test.find, open close parentheses. You'll notice we have an object ID, which is randomly generated, a field A with a value of 1. We can then type in exit to leave the database shell. The installation for Ubuntu is identical to the installation which we just went over. The difference is that modern versions of Ubuntu use a facility called Upstart. This is in place of the old style init.d start and stop scripts. Notice some other differences. The location of the distribution source is slightly different. It's under repo Ubuntu-Upstart, rather than the installation which was indicated as part of the Debian instructions. You'll also notice that for Ubuntu, you use sudo service MongoDB start, stop, and restart. However, these commands work just as well on any Debian installation.